What was the question?
People who think they know the real you. So what's the problem with someone thinking they know the real you?
Do they?
No, of course not. Does anybody?
You know the real you.
Yeah. This is one of the questions. Big, there's a very Buddhist view on that.
Like what kind of merit does that mindset have?
It's just wrong. It's just a wrong consciousness. It's not necessarily a negative consciousness if they're just wrong, but if they feel like if they have an arrogance about it, it has a negative quality to it because of the arrogance. If there's pride about it, that's again the same kind of problem. But it's not, unless you're a Buddha, you can't know someone. There isn't even a real you in Buddhism. So there's nothing to hold on to there. There's a moment of you.
It's just like the people in your life are like,
Yeah.
oh, like of course John does that. He's just like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's their point of view. That's all you can do with that. And if there's an opportunity for a conversation, you can say, not sure I think that's true. I might not do that. I don't understand why you think that. But
like to me, it just like the ignorance.
What difference does it make, John?
What?
What difference does it make that other people have incorrect views? Most of us have incorrect views most of the time. Getting hooked by it is something we can work with. But we can't change someone else's mind or their point of view or their perspective. But we can change ours and how we behave. And they may discover that they don't know you, but they might not. Because some people have already made up their minds in their own mind. They've just made up their mind that they know who you are, and it can be based on 10 years ago. It can be based on just an erroneous thing that they've known you long enough to know who you are, and occasionally, of course, they're going to be correct in the sense that they'll predict something you'll say or do, and they'll be right. And they'll think, yeah, see, I know the
Yeah.
But mostly what you have to look at is why let that hook you into a judgment of them, because that's a negativity. That's not a mind we really need to practice, because that's what they're doing to you. So you really don't want to turn it around. And
yeah, it's like hard catching yourself doing it.
Yeah.
But it's.
Yeah, it is. But this is why paying attention is very important. And so when we notice things like, oh, they say that, but how could that be true? We don't have to have a discussion with that person about it, but it's a good way to look at, do I do that to people? Do I believe that I know them so well that, I know the real them,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like for my whole life, I've always kind of given people this weird feeling when they meet me.
Yeah, well, maybe you give off a weird vibe. But that's just probably because you're not cut from a conformist cloth.
Great.
Yeah, well, right. So why worry about it? That is the point.
Why worry? Because conformity is rewarded.
So what? You have to choose. We have to make choices.
I just can't conform.
Okay, then you just don't. There's not, we get to choose. Now, sometimes we pay a price for that. But we can still choose. But what's good is when we know why we're doing something. It's like somebody who, when they go to work, they behave in a way that is in accord with what their boss wants them to act like, and that helps them keep their job. And there's nothing good or bad about that. It's very practical, you know. But that same person, if they were asked to do something that they felt was wrong, they may have to choose differently. But there could be a price for that, because we can get fired for things like that. But it may be, but sometimes it's worth the price to just say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it.
I think about that a lot, just like the 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 German citizens of World War II who conformed to
And there were many that did
hatred.
not. They didn't conform to hatred.
Well, like just the suffering of a group of people.
Yep. Yeah, but judging some, we have no clue
Like I see that,
what it's like to be in that place.
but
But what? But you know the real them?
well, no, I'm not just talking about like historically, but like I see history in the present.
Okay. What I think you need to do is focus on you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not
I'm
here to
just-
discuss
I'm going off
history.
track.
Yeah. And so I'm not here to discuss that. But our main focus of what we can actually work with is our own minds, our own behavior, our own speech, and being aware of when we get hooked by other people's behavior, when it feels like we need to change them, or we know better than they do, and we might. I'm not saying that we necessarily don't. I mean, it's just that, it's getting hooked, like we have to change someone. And that's not actually doable. People change from their own side. It's not, we can't get in other people's minds and change them. We can ask people to treat us differently, but we can't make them treat us differently. We can walk away from people that we don't find their behavior acceptable, but we can't make them change their behavior. But what we need to do is when we watch our minds, immediately, go to that place where you feel like, well, if I was king of the world would be a better place, because that's just another button. We have no idea what we'd do if we were actually king of the world. We've seen that other people don't seem to handle it very well. So maybe we don't want that job, so but it's like the thing that we can be responsible for is how we act and how we talk and what we think about. And that takes skill. It's a learned skill to get into your mind and go, oh, that's not a helpful way to think. I need to stop this conversation, and learn how to interrupt our unskillful states of mind, and then learn what might be more skillful, because sometimes we don't really know what would be skillful, and so then that just makes room for habits to reappear, to keep doing what they do. So
I was hoping you could maybe speak about the suffering of extensiveness a little bit. It's easy to understand the obvious suffering of suffering, the suffering of change.
Right.
The suffering of extensiveness was difficult for me to wrap my head around.
yeah, this is of course the main suffering. But you're not alone in finding that to be difficult to understand. So basically saying that all things, conditioned things, are in the nature of suffering. So that means, like, the way we're everything about samsara is in the nature of suffering, all pervasive, it's extensive, it extends to all of samsara. How can that be? This is like what you were saying earlier, John. It's never going to be perfect. Why? Guess who lives there? All of us samsaric beings. It is a reflection of our past actions. We're stuck in samsara because of our past action and our ignorance. And that comes from, that's innate. Our ignorance is innate. We think, we from the beginning, well, there's no beginning. It's really hard to talk about it. But this assumption we make that because we appear to be separate from each other, that we appear to be independent of each other, all that stuff, then things are like that. And the Buddha said, actually, it's not true. It's a mere appearance. Things aren't actually like that. But because we think they are, we keep acting from that misperception, that misunderstanding. It's not really a misperception, but it's a misunderstanding. And so that makes us do things like have a really strong sense of self-preservation. Oh, I have to protect this body, this mind, because if I don't, who will, And we forget our interdependence on each other. So it is the nature of these bodies that they fall apart, that they can be hurt, that you get sicknesses, that you age, you either die young or you get older, you get sickness and you die older. Those are your two options. So, and not only that, everybody you care about, everybody you hate also is going to die. They're going to get, they'll either die young or the age, illness, and death. And this is the nature of samsara. It means uncontrolled birth, rebirth, And it's uncontrolled because it's being controlled by our past actions, karma, and our ignorance, our afflictions. So it's just until we figure out how things actually exist and quit acting from this mind of ignorance, we'll keep creating the cause to stay in samsara. So extensiveness just means that it's this idea like, yes, we should try to make the world a better place. Yes. Because why? Because that produces good merit, and that's, and that will lead to a better place. But as long as you're in samsara, there's going to be suffering. It's the nature of suffering. Because it's born of ignorance. Buddhists don't live in samsara. They exist, they see samsara because they see us. Not really with their eyes, but their mind knows everything. So they know all of our conventional existence and all the mistakes we make and all the good things we do. So this idea of like, but the world should get better. This idea of a linear, as we learn more, things should get better and better. It's not going to happen in samsara like that. Because people will keep being born into a particular place because of their karmic conditions. So if you get your act together really, really well, and make good prayers and all this kind of stuff, you might be born in a pure land and learn all the Dharma and come back and teach us, hopefully, and then, but it's like, so you won't be in a place where that everything's the nature of suffering. In Pure Lands, it's everything's the nature of Dharma. So, and when you're liberated from this ignorance, even though things will still appear a certain way, you won't know that they don't actually exist that way. So you won't continue to make the mistakes of ignorance, because the foundation of all of our negative states of mind, all our incorrect views, all of our unskillfulness comes from this mistaken idea about how we exist. So we'll no longer be doing that. So we won't be creating the cause to suffer. And we won't suffer. So it's like a desirable place to get with your mind, and it's a state of mind. So it's not, but it's down the road ways.
hate to say it, but it sounds a little depressing.
Yeah, except there's a way out. But when you look at the world, yeah, go ahead.
So that's my other question, talk about good prayers and stuff. And all my life, my prayers, dear Heavenly Father. It's like
Right.
with Buddhism, there's no God.
Right.
It's like, who do I pray to?
You're praying to enlightened beings and to bodhisattvas. Please guide me. Please continue to guide me. Please make sure I'm doing. But they can't do it for you. What you're trying to do is remind yourself that I want to follow this path. I want to follow these teachings because I want to create the cause for happiness. I want to get rid of my ignorance. I don't want to keep doing things I regret, you know. Like Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to say, you know, like you can either choose to like change your body, speech, and mind habits, or you can do Vajrasattva every second of the day. That's a purification practice, you know, all day long. You know, it's up to you. So, you know, but it's this, but the good news is we're learning how to create the causes for less suffering in our own lives in the future. You know, so, and our response to suffering changes from that place. You know, it's more of like you recognizing that, oh, yeah, of course, I'm in samsara, I'm gonna get old, I'm gonna get sick, it's gonna hurt, you know, I'm gonna lose everybody I love, all those things, but I don't end. I just need to keep going in a direction that will get me out of this uncontrolled mess, you know? Yep.
Any thoughts on the desire for non-existence?
Oh, there's no point in that because you can't not exist. Consciousness has always existed. You will always exist,
But like,
but nothing. And that's the Buddhist view. I can't, there's nothing, the consciousness always exists. What?
So other religions would believe that if you have a desire not to live and every end of your life that you are condemned to hell. Would Buddhism say that you're born in a lower realm because of that?
No. The irony is, this is one of those great ironies. You learn about karma. Killing a human being is a really negative action because nobody wants to be killed. Of course, if you're killing yourself because you want to die, then first of all, it's a lighter action because you're not taking someone else's life from them, okay? But also, the karma is complete when the person dies. Well, if you kill yourself, you die before the karma is completed. So you don't carry a complete action of killing. Yeah, good luck with figuring, yeah, I mean, you know, yeah. So if you kill someone else and they die, and you die before they do, like say you're in a war, you know, and you shoot someone, they shoot you back and you die first, you will not have a complete action of killing the other person because you died first. Okay. So you can't carry their death on your mind stream. Okay. So the desire, the really sad aspect of suicide, according to the Buddha, is that you have no idea where you're going to end up. You know, the moment of death is what determines what karmic seed ripens for your next life. And so if you act from a place of despair or just apathy or indifference or just the hell with it kind of thing, that's not a really good mind to die with. So you may end up in a worse state. You know, not that that helps somebody who's already suffering. I mean, it's, you know, just like in any tradition, suicide is not recommended. In this tradition, whatever state you end up in is not permanent. There's no, you know, you will exhaust that seed eventually, whatever it is, be a mosquito, I don't know. You know, but consciousness, according to the Buddha, has your stream of consciousness, my stream of consciousness has always existed. There's no beginning to it. There's no end to it. Now, whether you're stuck in samsara, that has an end if we remove our ignorance. So the mind continues, but we're not stuck in this cycle of birth, death, rebirth, death, with no control, no choosing, no anything. You just exist in a state of bliss. Because all the suffering we experience is from samsara. And all that is from our misunderstanding of how we exist. And the Buddha said he figured out, not just him, but enlightened beings figured out how to get rid of their ignorance. And they describe the state as a state of bliss. It's not boring, as a lot of people fear. But that's because we're addicted to craving. We think that's exciting. And there apparently is something better than that. Yeah, the whole in the Buddha says, that it is not to depress you to think about death and all these the suffering of samsara, but it's the first noble truth, the truth of suffering. We just need to know about it, recognize it, accept it, that it has causes, and then find out that we can do something about those causes. So the power's in up to us. There's no loophole there.
Let's say there's like 2 murderers. Like,
Yeah. Well, we can go down that route, but it's really a waste of time.
okay.
Because they both get bad karma for trying to kill a human being. You get negative karma from trying to kill a human being, even if you don't succeed. You get bad karma for forcing someone else to kill someone.
Is there karma in thought?
Yes.
So me just thinking I want to kill that guy.
Yeah, that's not a good train of thought. It doesn't give you a killing karma because you didn't actually act on that thought, but it's a very negative mind. So, and you think about, how does someone become that? How is someone born with a pathological desire or non-path? I don't know. You have pathology and desire. Does that go together? Or is it the opposite?
Yeah.
Okay. To kill. Where does that come from? Thinking about it an awful lot. And finding it exciting or fun or somehow getting even or whatever. So we really do want to interrupt those thoughts when we have them. When you just think, I'm going to just kill that guy. Not a good mind to follow, because that's what leads. This is what's good about looking at your mind, is when you see something like, oh, that's probably not a very, but it's not about merit or anything. It's that you want to look at the mind of impatience or anger or hatred or, greed, blah, 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 and think, where could that possibly lead me to? I take it to the extreme. What kind of person would that be? How would they behave, And so then you end up with people like Hitler, and then you end up with people like, I can't say any living people, can I? That'd be rude. It'd be assuming I knew the real them, and that wouldn't be true. So, but I mean, it's like, what would cause a serial killer? What would cause someone to be born in a war zone from birth? These are all things about having some sort of either a great deal of hatred, uncontrolled hatred, and also a habit of killing. So so that's one of the unfortunate things about animal rebirth, is many animals are hunters. So what leads to that kind of rebirth? Hunting. It's just not complicated.
Oh.
So yeah. So there's a lot to learn about karma, but also only a Buddha, only enlightened beings can know all the ins and outs of karma, because they're the only beings who know everybody's everything. So they can follow all the causes and conditions that created this moment in time that could cause this habit to surface, But for the rest of us, we just, as we learn more, like there's a point at which if you develop your mind, you can remember your past lives. Then you'll understand karma a lot more. So,
What point is that?
I'm abiding, really. You reach come abiding, come abiding is when you can place your mind on the object of mind for as long as you want, no matter what you're doing. You don't lose your concentration. That's like it's not a desire around mind.
Are you at that point?
Have you seen me eat cookies right before class? No, I'm not at that point. But it's not it's not like you don't necessarily have to be on a path to do that. Meditation's been practiced for hundreds and hundreds of years by all kinds of people, and you don't have to have any kind of spiritual leaning. What you have to have is concentration and discipline. So, which is why one of the emphasis in our tradition is, always to set a good motivation, because if you don't, you can end up going astray with like the powers you get from concentration. It's wild. The limited knowledge I have about what's called CDs, accomplishments, because I don't have any of them. Yeah.
OCD has been like a condition that kind of confuses me. Just these people, they kind of think.
Do you have it?
I do not have it
Then why worry about it?
because I've had similar.
Okay, but I don't want to talk about that here. This is not just a random discussion on how could that happen.
Well, I'm bringing it back to like the thought mindset. Like there's people who think about killing people and killing puppies and doing horrible things.
Yeah, and
but
they become serial
they'll
killers.
never, like the people with OCD, but they hate having those thoughts. Like they really, really hate it. And
so that's probably not the same thing as the pathological, I want to kill all the puppies.
But it's like a thought that they cannot control, right?
No, it's just that we get. And how many thoughts do you have that you cannot control? That just pop up and you go, oh God, I can't believe I'm thinking that way again. This is what humans do. The mind thinks. The direction of the mind is what we want to look at. So worrying about how other people got in the mess they're in is a habit that isn't a whole lot of use to ourselves when we're guessing. What we can do is we can take our own thoughts and say, okay, if I keep thinking this way, where might it end up? You're still guessing, but at least you're working with something that, you're trying to help yourself decide whether this is a skillful state of mind or not. So this is what we can work with, is instead of jumping into other people's heads and trying to figure them out, it's really just looking at what do I have control over, how I think, what I say, what I do, and not get into psychoanalyzing the whole world. It's really about just, is this behavior or way of thinking helping me or hurting me? Not sure? Come back to that later. Other things you go, oh yeah, this is definitely a bad habit I have. It's not good for me. Okay, so how do I interrupt it? First, you have to notice it's there. Then you might have to think about what kind of harm does it cause me? What kind of harm does it cause me to cause others? Do I have regrets because of it? How can I, does it just waste my time? So how can I interrupt this and choose differently in the future? What can I do to help myself not keep going in this direction? And so we just want to keep directing our mind towards what will benefit ourselves in creating the cause of happiness, which in turn means letting go of self-grasping and trying to cherish others. To shift our focus from being all that concerned about me and start being more concerned about others. And it's even better if you just let go of all that self and other stuff and just think about people and how to treat people, including yourself, because we're included in the picture. So it's really important to uh, watch how often our habit energy goes to the past or the future, how often it goes to judging others, how often does it go to self-loathing, how often does it go to loathing others, whatever it is. We want to see what patterns are happening, and then we want to examine them. Is this helpful or not helpful? Is it useful, not useful? Does it help me help others, or does it tend to make me kind of not care so much about others, or does it make me judge others? So it's like what we talked about Sunday. If somebody does something to us, that one of the places our mind can go is, oh, this is my karma writing, so what have I done in the past that's similar to this? Instead of worrying about the other person doing it to us, you just kind of go, oh, okay, this is a clue that maybe I don't want to act this way towards others. I don't like it when it's happening towards me, and so that gives you more, because we need motivation, right? We need to want to change. So we need reasons that fit us, that aren't somebody else's reasons. Yeah.
Looking around because I feel like I'm monopolizing you. It's along those lines of like needing a reason. This part really stood out to me, and it's just like my dissatisfaction with work, and how we spend a great portion of our life studying so that we shall be qualified for a job. We look for the job in order to make money, and then we worry about investing the money in order to have even more. We cannot hope to live more than 50, 60, 70 years, and what time is all taken up with such feverish activity, but to what purpose? And just like, I don't job, I don't like what I do, but I owe so much in student loans, and it's just like I want out of the suffering of like the 9 to 5, but at the same time I'm kind of helping people, but not really. Like,
Okay, so that's a lot of pieces.
yeah, sorry.
So, but this is the thing, is we do want to look at our lives and say, okay, am I spending what part of how much of my time is spent in a meaningful way to me, so we might not like our jobs. Okay, most people in the world do not have a choice about their jobs, so that's not unusual. So how can you turn that around into valuing your job?
I try and switch my mind and say I get to eat the frog instead of I have to eat the frog. But some days that I don't
Yeah, not a good choice of food.
The Mark Twain quote. I never heard it. You guys ever heard that quote?
I'm sure I have, but
Okay.
I don't recall it.
You have something hard to do it first.
Yeah,
So
if
when you wake up in
right.
the morning, eat a lot of frog. Because your day's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
get better
okay.
from there on in.
Yeah.
Have food first
Yeah,
thing.
I'm glad I'm not stuck in a raft in the Mississippi.
I'll try and find it.
Oh, don't worry about it.
No,
Okay.
So, but yeah, your point's taken. So yes, I mean, part of it is reframing. Part of it is saying, okay, I have a job. Yay. There are a lot of people out there who want a job and don't have a job, So recognizing that a job has value to you. What is that value? Oh, because I can pay my bills, because I can eat. I can have more choices about what I can eat, blah, blah, blah. Then, but what I would like to be able to do is have a job that helps other people. Okay, so what can I do about that?
I get scared because the jobs that in my line of work that are rewarding, I'd get paid a third of what I get paid.
Yeah, so then you have to go, okay, can I live off of a third and be content? I'm not content now. We have to not forget that part. I'm not, you're just looking at someone who did nothing but nonprofit work. I think the most money I ever made was $28,000 in a year. I did not get rich this way. So we have to, the choices you have to make. But working a job in order to be able to pay your bills is not a bad reason. Why? Why isn't that a bad reason?
Because we would want
Free
other
time to
people
do this.
Wow,
You have free time to do this.
contributing to society?
Because you're participating in society. So if you say to hell with the bills, blah, 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 you've broken a contract with, the people who loaned you the money. Yeah, I know. It's just like, well, that was a stupid decision.
Yeah.
But hey, there you go. So it's the thing that we have to see. It's like, my teacher in North Carolina would always say, why are we so upset when we get the bill? Not like we didn't use the stuff. It's like, oh, now you have to pay for it. Well, that's the drag. Whereas for his point of view is you get the stuff. This is where someone who grew up in poverty, didn't even have access to getting the stuff, much less having money to pay for the bill for the stuff, So as far as he's concerned, everything's gotten better, So we do need to look at how we're thinking about things and then what our agreement is. But we also can say, okay, I recognize that if I want to do stuff that is more meaningful to me, I'm going to have to live off of less money. Is it realistic? Can I do a little of both? Can I volunteer in some way to do things that are really meaningful and still earn a living so I can pay back my bills? We have to, this is samsara. You are not going to find the perfect job. You're not going to find the perfect paycheck. You're not going to find any of that stuff. That's the deal. That's the all extensive suffering of samsara. Yeah, that's exactly it. So we have to look at where our choices are and recognize when sometimes it's the way we're thinking. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with the structure. It has to do with, not recognizing that there's some value in having a job that can pay my bills, So then how do you start liking your job? These are all these things, because if not liking your job makes you a grouch, and you're not fun to work with, or you come home and, people are kind of like, oh yeah, you could have stayed at work if you were going to have that attitude, all this kind of stuff, so it's just, it's more of just being able to say, I'm not alone in not liking my job. So why do I think I deserve better? Why am I making this out of, some sort of, I'm entitled to like my job? Well, yeah, that's a nice thought. Maybe you didn't create the cause for that, So it's just, it's a process of letting go of what we've been taught to believe and looking at, what do I really believe? I'm a grown up now. I get to evaluate, and it's just, and then you might, if you're more open to everything that's happening, then you might see opportunities that you didn't see before. So it's just, but what we do, the Buddha never says, it's not whether you're the king or whether you're the shepherd or the, whatever. It's how you treat others. It's, you're taking care of that, who you're responsible for. Are you helping them? Are you kind? Are you thoughtful? All that kind of stuff. Are you patient? Are you generous? Like one of the mistakes people make, and it's talked about in the Lama and Chenmo, is that sometimes people think, oh no, I don't want to become a monk or nun because they don't make any money, and I'd rather make a lot of money and then give to, the Dharma, says blah, blah, blah. Big error. Because the best thing we can do is to change our mind. And the best lifestyle to do that is one that's your job. So it's, it's all, it's looking at things from other angles than the one we're accustomed to looking at them, and questioning why we think that way. Yeah.
I was gonna say I experienced changing my mind after I got sick, chronically ill. I can't travel anymore, anywhere. So I have to appreciate what I have here and I look at Instagram and all these people traveling everywhere. I'm like, oh wow, lucky them. There's like these moments of envy and jealousy I felt, where I'm like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be there. And was struggling with how I find happiness and contentment with the life I have now, and not living like I don't even want to be the way that they are. I don't want to live a lifestyle where I'm like just destroying the environment
Yeah,
for like no reason, just because I want to, because it's fun for me.
yeah.
And yet I'm still jealous. And I'm like, why am I so jealous?
Well, I mean, we're in the desire realm. So yes, we have a mind that is completely conditioned towards, getting what we want. And so it's this one thing is I wouldn't want to look at Instagram so much. Be kind to yourself. If it's starting to get you in the wrong mindset, go, okay, that's enough of that. Go back to the environmental sites that are telling you what's wrong with that lifestyle, but but it can just keep working with, because it's much better to be content wherever we are, whatever we're doing, to live with that if only mind. If only I could do this, if only I could do that, if only I was not sick, if only I blah, 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 blah. That is misery personified. That's how we add suffering to our own life, is not accepting the way it is. And that's what the Buddha said. We don't accept things the way they are. We don't even know the way we exist, and it's we need to look at those things, but we can make changes. We see of it, but it's a habit. And so it's really hard until we, realize emptiness. We're probably not going to get eliminated entirely. There'll be little seeds there ready to pop up from time to time, but we can develop a sense of humor about it. Oh, there I go again.
It's interesting. I learned from my child self, remembering how I was as a child. And I was so joyful as a child. And I'm like, I was so content living here and the beach. It's so beautiful here. I mean, how lucky could I be? I don't need anything else. So I thought it was interesting that I go to my child self. And then I deconstruct all my beliefs all the time, but like this is other people's beliefs of like what I should be doing with my life,
Right.
Stuff.
Yeah. And it's hard to shake these things off. It's very interesting, but that's a great use of our remembering, and that's what a lot of people need to do when they've experienced a loss, is remember that, there was a time you were happy before this loss. You can be happy again after this loss. It's just got to take time. And we think we're stuck. We're stuck in samsara. Yes, that's true. But we are not mentally stuck, because our mind is so changeable. It changes constantly. And we just need to learn how to direct it in a way that is helpful to ourselves, skillful to ourselves, skillful to others. Because being miserable is not helpful to anybody. So it's, but it doesn't mean there aren't days that it's very hard to do so. And so that mind that complains from the time you go to work to the time you get off work is something that's not skillful.
I'm not horribly dissatisfied with my job. I just know I could be useful in other ways.
Yeah.
But I find what he was saying, it's like I'm just scratching the surface, and I'm already meeting so much resistance, and it's really hard to go against the grain. It's like if I decide to
What resistance? Is it internal resistance?
go, my perceptions or
We do that, don't we?
yeah.
We make up a whole story.
Well, like if I want to give up drinking, why aren't you drinking?
Yeah.
And it's like, because I don't want to. And it's so hard to change. And then people, you try and enlighten, well, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that was a big mistake.
Right.
Yeah, that's just a mistake. Trying to share your great wisdom with others, newfound though it may be, is unwanted advice. Now, if they see, like if somebody says, I've noticed you've seemed a lot more content since you gave up drinking. Why do you think that is? Then that's an opportunity to perhaps explain your choice. But even then, sometimes one sentence will be enough and they're ready to move on from that conversation. So, it's a process of, the biggest thing is not lying to ourselves. Where we go, okay, I'm not ready for that change because I don't want all my friends to start thinking I'm, such a nerd or such a geek or so, whatever it is, and I don't want to live with that pressure at the moment. That's just being honest with yourself. It's like, we can't do it all at once, first of all, but also it's just like we can, we want to see what is the deep reason for ourselves. And then we can be motivated to put up with all that, because you can't escape that. People do resist change. They don't, and they, most of the time they just refuse to accept that there's a change that's happened. They just, oh yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Yeah. And there's some truth to that, isn't there? We've all made changes that didn't last too long. So it's not, this is not out of reach here, when people start, but it's mostly just, when we can get into that place, that sometimes it's because they have fears or concerns about their own behavior. And so they're pushing back on my behavior just because they're not comfortable. Other times it could be that they're really worried about me and da 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 da. So it's a sign that they're caring, so we can just, so we can just try to find out more, are you worried about me? Blah, blah, blah. But, and you can always say things like, I'm just trying it out.
So that, and then the other thing would be like talking about Buddhism. People look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, stop that.
Yeah.
If it's unasked for, stop that.
But okay, so see, I was taught that I'm like you're supposed to spread the good news.
Oh
and
yeah,
evangelize.
give that up.
Okay, yay, good. I'll keep this to myself.
Yes, keep this to yourself. We didn't do any proselytization in Buddhism. It's, you have to ask a teacher 3 times before they'll give you a teaching on something. It's not recommended. And usually you're going to say things that years later, or maybe months later, you go, well, that wasn't quite right, was it? I misunderstood that. So better just not even get into those conversations until someone sincerely asks about something. And then you want to answer, but it's just, but you don't want to give people reasons to never look at Buddhism. You say something that they're just kind of like, whoa, that made me, in life after life, they never meet Buddhism. So you don't want to do that. I just steer clear. I mean, so many beginning Buddhists turn off all their friends and family members, within 6 months. When are you going to stop talking about Buddhism? Gag. So,
It sounds like it's awareness and curiosity.
yes. Yes. Because in curiosity, there's no judgment, there's no scolding, there's no disappointment. It's just curious. Oh, what do I, how do I think? Does it make sense what I think? If I take that out to some, draw it out, where does it lead? Do I really want to continue in that direction? And fortunately, the good news is we have some good habits that will go, yes, I want to go more in that direction. Then you have to look at things like, are people who don't make a lot of money, are they necessarily unhappy? So we need to counter our belief systems, to see, because we can get caught up in greed, where it's just, If we just, it's always more. I have to work harder, meanwhile, or I want to retire early. Now, that's not like a bad goal or something. It's just that you have to look at, okay, are you going to still have a relationship, at that early retirement because of what you had to do to get there? So you have to, nothing's, everything is interwoven and we're interdependent on others. So it's not a simple matter to sort any of this stuff out, but we're already spending a lot of time trying to figure everything out and worrying about all sorts of things we have no control over and doing it. So it's not like we're going to be expending more effort. It may just turn out to be more useful effort. Because our minds keep thinking no matter what. So give us something worthwhile to think about and something productive, kind of thing. Sit up straight, woman. I swear, if I had only listened to my mom.
Me too.
Oh, good grief. So, all right. The main text in this tradition, other than the Buddhist sutras and all those, is Lama Tsongkhapa's text called The Great Treatise on the Graduated Path to Enlightenment. There's a reason why it's called a graduated enlightenment. It's a process, and you have to make some progress, before you go to harder stages and harder, or you get discouraged and you give up. And that's the worst thing we could do is just to give up. So it's and some things will go a lot faster at because of past lives, because we've had some experience that, bore fruit in a past life. And when we meet it again, it just clicks and it makes sense. Other things, it's like, oh, obviously I haven't met this before, or I had great resistance every time I met it, and you just hit a wall. But it's just, so you have to be, okay, not yet. Put that on the side. I told y'all how for a year in Australia, when I was receiving teachings, I never heard the word emptiness once. And then every weekend when I'm reading the transcripts of the studies that week for the test, I'd go, I know I was there. I missed every teaching on it. I just missed it. I mean, it was there. I was in the room. I just didn't hear any of it. And that's karma. I just had an obstacle. It's so embarrassing to read them every week and just kind of go, yeah, missed it again. Missed it again. But, in some ways, our karma protects us as well. I mean, we have to, if we're not ready, if there's an obstacle, we probably wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So, it takes time. So we just need to remember what we can actually do something about. And that's our own behavior. At first, though, we just need to recognize what we're doing. Just bring awareness, just notice. Oh, look what I'm doing. I've made up a whole story about how this isn't going to work, and then, so we can kind of go, okay, is that true? Are you sure? You say, are you sure? It's some things take a long time to really sort in our minds, because we have some strong held belief, and it isn't just blind belief that, our parents told us to believe that, that we just have this real strong belief. And then we start to look at it and we go, maybe that's not so true, and that can take a process. But they're called habits for a reason. We do them a lot. It's not occasional, it's a lot. So, and this is why slowing down when we reflect on what's going on in our mind, like if something you keep noticing, if this comes up a lot for me, then you really want to reflect on that in some non-busy moment where you kind of look at that. What's going on with that? What does that say about what I believe? What does that say about what I might be afraid of? It's, to learn more about ourselves and to, and sometimes be amused. Like, oh, I'm still grasping after that, even though I'm perfectly content without it, because it's funny. We're just, but this is why we're stuck in the desire realm. As we keep thinking there's got to be something in what we want to do. We just keep wanting, and that's got to be the source of happiness, and that's it's incorrect. So
Being that's the source of happiness then?
I'm sorry.
Is being the source of happiness then?
It depends on who you're being. I mean,
That makes sense.
but I mean, it's like really the source of happiness is helping others. It's recognizing our interdependence, that everything is a dependently arisen phenomenon. So our participation matters, and how we participate matters, and all that stuff matters. And so but also not living in the past and the future, because living in the past and the future isn't particularly helpful. We can learn from the past, we can plan for the future, but we need to recognize when we spend an awful lot of time daydreaming or reminiscing, because that's not particularly useful. Because we're living a life in all those moments that we're doing that. So we're missing it, and it's missing that life. So we want to notice. So that's where being in the present is helpful, is just recognizing that you have no control over the past, particularly. That's done. We can learn from it, but we can't erase it. We can't change it. Because I know when I first learned about this idea of purification of our negativities, of past, or regrets or whatever, I really wanted it to erase, and it doesn't do that. Funny thing, you have to live with what you do, but what it does is help you to develop the resolve, the motivation to not do it again. Because it's all working with the mind. We have to decide not to do it again.
I was in this funk this week, kind of, sort of. And I noticed my niece used to call me quite a bit, and it stopped. And I'm making up a story about why she's not calling. And I realized I have no idea what she's thinking about me. And now, I don't know, I take on something that I don't know how to act, what I should do. Should I keep calling her? Am I going to feel better, if I reach out to her? Which I did, and I didn't feel better. And I'm like, it's a story, and I realized,
it's totally a story, and you made it all about you, as if she doesn't have her own life. You don't have any idea if it's about you at all, but you can ask. Like, I mean, you don't even have to make, it's just sort of like, it seems like we used to talk a lot more often. Have you, is something going on with you that that you just can't do it anymore? Or did I say something that hurt your feelings, or whatever, however you want to put it? I mean, you can ask, but you need to remember that it may not have anything to do with you. And in our stories that we make up, it's always about us, because we're the center of the universe.
and it's like, they're doing something against me.
Right.
I must have done something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, but mostly it's just about you. It's just like we turn it into that, oh, I must have done something wrong, and that's why they're not calling, because it's about me. It's got to be about me. That's part of the story we're making up. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, well, you can
I wanna
stop it.
change it.
Yep. So when the mind goes that way, you can just say, I don't know if that's true.
I said that to myself, but then it just keeps.
And you have to do it again. Guess what? We are not, one fix wonders,
So on top of that, then I say, I'm not getting better, or I'm not changing.
Yeah. And
So then
then
I
you
get
go,
another
that's
idea.
not true.
You're more aware of what's going on.
That's right. That's the good news.
Yes,
That
You
is-
can't change what you don't know,
That is a step.
but you also have to recognize that change isn't easy, and you know that. So that's why you need to remind yourself when that voice comes up going, well, that's not true. I haven't given myself a chance to, blah, blah, blah. Plus, you don't know if it's true, the story you're making up.
I did give myself a break and I did say some of those things to myself. I still didn't feel better.
Oh, I'm so sorry for that. I'm sorry. Helping others is how we get happiness. Working on our ignorance, working on our afflictions is not necessarily fun. It bears fruit.
But it's a necessary.
Of course it's necessary because it's all our messed up mind, the way we think. So, but it's not like there's no magic here. It's not like in the cartoons where somebody has that, light bulb go off and they feel so and they smile. Oh, I know what to do. It's not like that.
I guess I've been someone who always wants like immediate resolution,
King baby.
immediate gratification, whatever.
Yep.
I have to say,
Yeah.
however you say it.
King baby.
I wanted,
I want what I want now. I'm very familiar with that mind. It's just not useful. And it keeps us stuck in this realm of craving. It just feeds craving. Like craving's fun.
what do you mean feeding craving of what? Of
Getting what I want. When I want it. In exactly the way I want it. We have lots of
I
caveats
want
to it.
everyone to look.
Yes, exactly the way I want them to love me. It's not good enough for them to love me. They have to love me
They
in
have
the
to show
correct
me.
way.
They have to show-
Right. And they have to show me the way I would like it. We have unbelievable rules and
Nobody
contracts,
knows
emotional contracts. We make everything into a transaction. This is a mistake. If you put it simply, it's a mistake. And we just need to catch ourselves out because it gets kind of funny. I'll look at my mind sometimes and go, are you kidding me? Do you really think the world is just supposed to, hurt its, all the obstacles so that you can walk through? Who do you think you are? But why do we think that'd be nice? I mean, that's what's so silly about it.
Could be the green lights.
Yeah, the green lights. Oh, surely it's my turn every time. I mean, and we actually suffer because of this way of thinking. That's what's insane, is that we take little things and we blow them up into this great big thing. Oh, life's not fair, or she's not thinking of me, or whatever. And it's really this little bitty thing. And we've blown it up into some, big thing. And it's not true. It was never a big thing. It's an unreasonable expectation. Nobody else in the room even knows what that expectation is. Those are my personal favorites. Oh, that's right. I forgot to tell you that you're supposed to know that. Don't you love that one? If you love me, you know what to do. Oh, that's
tell you.
reasonable.
Tell you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to tell you. You should know. That's what love is.
What do you want for your birthday? Oh, nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see that you've been paying attention, and so get me the perfect gift. Yeah.
I was just curious. Coming in here, I love and appreciate that you take questions from us. But I was wondering what you like to teach about the most, or if you ever like.
A lot of it is transforming problems. I like this recognition that what we perceive as a problem may not be true. That if we just look at something from a different angle, like why would we call it a problem? I mean, it starts very basic, the working with the mind. I really like working with the mind. I've always done this. I was born this way. This is something that I just find very interesting because doesn't always make sense. And it's just interesting how we, but working with our problems, and it's our problems of thinking, we can't change what arises for us, what external happens to us. We can't change whether we get sick. We can't change if we're in an accident. We can't change whether or not, our town gets flooded out. We can't change those things, but we can see evidence that people can be happy or content in those circumstances all over the world. There are people who are happy who are in circumstances that we can't imagine. And we moan and groan over little tiny stuff that happens. Who's happier? Not us. How insane is that? That fascinates me. We're creating a whole world of difficulty all in our own head. And we don't have to. So, really looking and saying, with a kind heart, it's so important to look at ourselves with a kind heart. It isn't that we're weird that we think this way. We're all thinking this way. The world appears to us as we're the central figure, so why isn't everybody catering to me? So it's not like we're just stupid. No, it's because we have the way things appear to us is somehow, getting what you want is how everything will go well. And then it doesn't. Chris? You're not muted, Chris. Did you have something to say?
Can he even hear you? It doesn't look like he.
Anyway, but that is the whole path. The whole path is about learning about what's positive action, and trying to develop those things, and learning about what's not positive. And those are no secret. Every religious tradition has exactly the same ones. You protect relationships, you protect life, you protect your parents, all these things are the same everywhere. Don't lie, so you protect honest speech. You're protecting others by telling the truth. You don't steal for the same reason, you don't want to do harm. You just think about the value of that one thing. You don't want to harm anybody. Everybody is safe around you. How amazing is that? That's an incredible power to just, learn how to not do harm. I was on his front porch. Let me see. Oh, well, how very friendly of you to say hello to your daughter and dog. They're out for a walk. I hope she has a good walk. So, and then recognizing that where we go wrong is really in how we twist things to be about us. We look at things and we don't realize that we're manipulating the way we're thinking about something in order to justify how we're behaving. And we all know about rationalization, and we do that constantly. And it's self-defeating because it actually takes us away from creating the causes of happiness. Just being mindful of others, seeing what they need, being able to look at any situation and go, what can I bring to this to benefit the others here? And that is really very satisfying. That's a satisfying state of being, where you're not caught up in your worries. It's not that we don't have to take care of business, and that we don't have things that we have to take care of. It's just that they're not very important in the scheme of things. If we've encountered a debt, we need to pay it. Very simple. We don't have to worry about it. We just need to pay it. Now, how we're going to pay it, I don't recommend robbing a bank. So it's how we treat others really is pretty obvious unless we treat ourselves badly. And then we're not learning how to treat others. We're learning how to treat people badly. So it's important to be respectful to ourselves and our needs and all that, and also to recognize when we're not being honest. Oh, I have to have this. Oh, really? So what need is it really, or is it just feeding a craving? All that kind of stuff, so it's just, but it's when we really sit down and think about what is it that I really want from others, it's things like affection, respect, consideration. So that's what we want to give others. So, yeah.
Well, my first time coming in here, you kind of repeated this message of just not ignoring beggars. And now every time I'm at Publix, I just buy a $5 Publix gift card and just keep it in my wallet.
Yeah.
And now I kind of get excited when I see a beggar, because just that sincere thank you that they give you is worth more than anything $5 can buy.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And this is seeing them as a human being, not as a drain on your system. And it's just like, and it's not, it's their solutions to how we think about something. And these are people, these things that, we worry about a lot of stuff, but we want to make sure that people are first and foremost, or animals or whatever. I mean, they're all persons, anything in the mind, it's about just stepping back and making sure we're including what actually matters, as opposed to all the details that probably don't matter. And it's not easy to do. There's a reason we're in the desire realm. We have strong habits of following our desires. And we really believe that's where the answer is. If I just get what I want this time. What are we? I'll never ask for anything again. I'm just silly. But it's this recognizing that when we think about the big picture, we think about what really matters to us. We'll be more patient with others. We'll be kinder to others. We won't be so worried about getting, it's like today. I was going into my physical therapy appointment. I was about 15 minutes early, and there was an elderly woman walking very slowly, walking with her walker into the building. And I stopped to make sure she was okay, or she needed help or whatever. And she said, I got here by taxi and they didn't wait for me. They already left, and so now I need to go back in, and she probably doesn't have a cell phone. She has to go in to ask the people inside if they would call for another cab. And I have a good friend who has that all the time. He's got Parkinson's, he no longer can drive, and he's always left by the taxis. This happens all the time. And I just thought, I'm not in a hurry here. So I just chatted with her until she, made it all the way inside, made sure she was okay, wished her well, agreed with, yes, it's really hard. And she said, please enjoy the fact that you can still drive. But so it's just remembering, that if we just look at it a different way, we may have time. We may have space. We may not see everybody as an annoyance or in the way or whatever, because most people fear beggars because they don't know what to do. But if you come up with a solution, then you know what you're going to do. And so you take that fear away, and then you can focus on what's most important, is treating each other like the human beings that we are, so.
It's taught to fear beggars.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's yes. And certainly nobody's saying, that it's necessarily safe to go into a homeless encampment and, in the middle of the night and
just give away
and give away money. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's just, it's not like, it's not like we don't need to accept the fact that that this is samsara, there are dangers in samsara and all that stuff, but we just need to recognize when we're making them up, and making up stories about everything because it's not useful, so. But the path is basically find out what is skillful, find out what's not skillful, try to resolve not to do the unskillful stuff, try to resolve to do the skillful stuff, make mistakes, try again. It's just this process of learning and developing your own inner wisdom so that you feel confident. Well, I think this is the right thing to do. And yeah, maybe it's not the perfect thing to do. And maybe it's, would never, but you just try. Because you want to be of benefit. You don't sit there going, oh, I know what this person needs.
That's refreshing because I feel like there's no way I'm just scratching the surface of this Buddhism and all these things. And what you just said makes it really simple.
It really is simple. What is it His Holiness says? Well, what does Venerable Rabina say? When you're with others, keep your hands to yourself and sip your lips, keep your hands to yourself. When you're alone, look at your mind. So, and it's really, and do no harm. Try to recognize, oh, I don't want to do harm. So if you're about to say something, you want to pause. Is this going to do harm? Is it, whatever.
I love her Instagram video. I love her Instagram video.
Yeah. Yeah, her yes. I mean, she has these great little 1 minute, comments for the day. They really helped me in COVID. All those little things that people came up with in COVID were helpful. But yeah, it's not rocket science. Now, maybe understanding how we actually exist is a little harder. It takes a lot of wisdom, but mostly we have to remove obstacles for it. It's not that it in itself is difficult. It's that we don't have enough merit to remove the obstacles to realizing it. So it's, so trying to do good and not to do harm, it's really not. And whenever people say, oh, well, what's the best thing to do? Well, it depends. And that's something you're just going to have to keep working with, is just developing your own inner wisdom so that you do and being gentle with yourself, because you're going to make mistakes. But when you're trying to get into someone else's life and fix them, or, Buddhists can't do it. Why do you think you can do it? Buddhists could do it. We'd all be enlightened and perfectly happy and living in bliss. We can't fix other people. We can be a good condition for other people, but mostly that's working on our own minds, so that we're kind and gentle and patient. Yeah, it's, so it's just, it's, but it's amazingly difficult to do because the world revolves around us in our heads. And so being able to keep going, oh, there I am. I see me. Where's Waldo? I see me. Holding tight to something I want. So it's just, we have to.
Where's Buddha?
Yeah, well, Buddha's everywhere. So that's that. Thank goodness. Isn't that cool that thank goodness has meaning in Buddhism? Because it's good behavior leads to good results. So anything that good happens, it's truly thank goodness. You can thank goodness because that's where it comes from. So, yeah, so it's kind of nice. So cause and effect, yeah.
I was listening to something the other day and it was mind blowing to me. It's talking about responsibility. It's the ability to respond. You break it down like that, it's just like, oh,
that's great. Don't you love it when you realize that, okay, responsibility. It is the ability to respond
appropriately.
appropriately. Why is there always a thing like that? But that's really good. You know, very good. I'll have to try to remember that. So that must be why translators use that word. I'm always disagreeing with the translators, like that's helpful. So,
Should be a trans.
oh, okay, let's rejoice. Okay. What am I doing? I know what I'm doing. You would never know I. So remember that everything that we're doing, trying to work with our own minds, is a positive action. You know, everybody did this more of the time, you know, everybody would suffer less. So it's a really positive action. And we don't have to worry about outcome. This is how you get there. You know, what is it? You know, the one drop in a bucket eventually fills the bucket. I mean, it's just, it's slow and tedious, but hey, that's okay. Better than quick and harmful. All right, on page 235. Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. And then we go, my next bookmark, page 241. Because of all the merits of the 3 times created by us and all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other sentient beings, may there be no wars, famines, disease, quarreling, fighting, or unhappy minds. May there be great prosperity, and may everything needed be easily obtained. May all the human beings in the world be guided by spiritual leaders teaching only Dharma, and may everyone enjoy the happiness of Dharma. May everyone have perfect conditions and have only compassion and love for each other in their mind streams. And may they only benefit and never harm each other. And then the long life prayer of His Holiness on page 244, I think. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until Musar end. 234 or something like that. Don't look at my page number. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and son, along with the lineage masters. All the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Hey. So